think is so fascinating about your podcast as well is that it gets into a big part of it is that you help contextualize why it's important that these specific people were on this bench at this specific time and how they each got there.
Yeah.
Who was the Chief Justice who persuaded so-and-so to do this? Who was the president that tried to do this and this? And I remember, as concisely as you can, but tell us about the switch in time that saved Nine.
Yeah. Right? What a name.
Yeah.
that was kind of the moment. That was actually when my moment of, oh, you need to dive deep and tell all of this instead of glossing over was finding out about that, where, look, in a nutshell, the Supreme Court had determined that this language and life, that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. That's the due process clause. That is what that word liberty effectively is what's been argued includes a fundamental right to privacy, which, means women have the right to choose an abortion, or at least that's the current law under Roe v. Wade. This was similar reasoning, but 100 years earlier, that said everyone has a liberty to contract for themselves. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you can't have any sort of regulation of business. So you can't have minimum wage. You can't have any labor laws. All of these things that we have now were unconstitutional at one point, kind of starting with the interpretations and with this Lochner arrest in early 1900s. That, when the Great Depression happened, FDR came in and basically had, he had a New Deal, literally called it the New Deal. And it was going to require a lot of economic regulation. But the problem was most economic regulation was unconstitutional. So, the Supreme Court was divided into 4 horsemen, which is fascinating. Literally, the press called them the 4 horsemen. They were diehard conservatives, were always going to vote for the liberty to contract and against FDR all the time. And then 3 liberals, the 3 musketeers, they called them. And then 2 swing voters, the Chief Justice and this guy, Owen Roberts, who's most important for this story. And the swing voters had voted with the conservatives because that was the law. So FDR found that a lot of his economic regulations were being struck down all the time. He'd be like, hey, let's try this. And the government, some of them were good, some of them were kind of crazy. Some of them was the government will set the price for all of these industries. We'll just tell you how much you can charge, for a lot of stuff. And those are struck down along with it. So finally FDR had enough, and after winning re-election for for entering now, I guess, his second term. Yeah. He also had all of Congress, he had the Senate, everyone was on his side, so everyone could do whatever he wanted. But the Supreme Court is in the way, so he said, I am going to add 6 new justices to the Supreme Court. So how can you do that? Well, Constitution doesn't say how many there have to be. Constitution just says the president will nominate and the Senate will approve. So, you can have 100 if you want, as long as the Senate approves. There's no set limit. It's just informally been 9. At one point, Lincoln made it 10, and then it went back to 9, so it has fluctuated anyway. So he said, I'm going to add 6, and he got, really aggressive about it. He was like, these judges are old, and they're crazy, and we can't trust them. We need 1 new justice for each justice who's over 70 years old. That was what he said. It ended up being 6. And he would have passed. The Congress hated it. In fact, the senator, the majority leader, died from the stress this caused him. I think it was the majority leader. In the middle of debating, getting the court, the pressure was so much that he literally died. And everyone was like, look, FDR, you can do it. Everyone's on your side. They'll do whatever you want, but don't do it. That's and when you think about the context, Mussolini had risen in Italy, Hitler was prime and leader in Germany. This was the peak of his power. He'd already consolidated power. So, dictatorships were growing, all of this stuff. So, and we weren't immune to it either. He was literally about to do it until Owen Roberts changed his mind. And Owen Roberts said, okay, look, I'll change my mind. I'll side with the liberals. You win 5-4 now on all of these cases. So the Lochner case was overturned, which meant that the liberty to contract was overturned, which meant that the government was now allowed to constitutionally regulate business. And because of that, FDR didn't need to add 6, because now Roberts basically said, I'll go along with it, just chill out. And so him changing his mind is regarded as the switch in time that saved 9.
9 justices.
9 justices. And the expression comes from, it was like some old expression, like a switch saves 9 or something, like some sort of like a motto or something. I forgot exactly what it was, but it was known, but like kind of obscurely referenced. But yeah, they called it the switch in time that saved 9.
Wow.
I don't know what, like it just sounds so epic. Like, but yes, like it did.
Hey, are you sad because this video's over? Well, don't be, because there are plenty more on the channel and even more coming, which means that you should subscribe so you can get notified every time there's a new video on the channel. Thanks for watching and stay tuned.